Hello, I'm John Cecil, President of the Military Sea Services Museum here in Sebring, Florida. We're glad you found us. To us, preserving the culture of maritime services is truly an important part of our nation's fabric. Micah Marsh will be your narrator as you explore our collection of memorabilia and artifacts donated by our community and veterans. I'm John Cecil, and we look forward to meeting you where history comes alive.
Hello and welcome. I'm Micah Marsh, a member and a museum docent here at the Military Sea Service Museum in Sebring, Florida. Our mission is to educate the public on the history, culture, and traditions of the U.S. Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard, and those of the waterborne branches of the U.S. Army, Air Force, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, and the U.S. Merchant Marine. We opened our doors as a museum on Memorial Day, Monday, May 25th, 1998. We are located at 1402 Roseland Avenue at the corner of Kenilworth Boulevard, Sebring, Florida 33870. Like myself, all museum staff are volunteers comprised of military veterans and community members. Before we start our tour, I'd like to let you know that this building has some history of its own. Our 4,000 square foot building started out in 1941 as the base housing office and community center for Hendricks Army Airfield, just 4 miles from here. After World War II, the airfield and housing were turned over to the city. Now we have Sebring Regional Airport, the Sebring International Raceway, and our little museum, all courtesy of the U.S. Army. One of the items that will greet you as you enter the museum is our large 17-foot long model of the USS Enterprise CV-6. USS means United States Ship. This means whether you're standing on its deck tied to a pier in San Diego or a pier in Naples, Italy, you're standing on a physical territory of the United States of America. The C in CV stands for carrier, while the V stands for fixed-wing aircraft. Our Enterprise, our Big E replica, was built by the museum members and Air Force Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps from Sebring High School during the start of the pandemic in 2020. Let's go into the USS Highlands APA 119 room. Our little town of Sebring is the county seat for Highlands County, Florida. Part of America's huge shipbuilding effort in World War II resulted in USS Highlands. Her combat missions completed, the Highlands carried Marines to Tokyo Bay and just happened to make it into the very iconic photograph of the Japanese surrender on board the battleship USS Missouri. Some of the artifacts displayed here are the Japanese Ariska rifle taken on the battlefield and several vials of beach sand brought back by Marine veterans who have visited Iwo Jima since the battle. Our museum possesses the first proof casting of the historic plaque that today sits on the deck of Battleship Missouri in Pearl Harbor. The plaque records the date, location of the ship, and the significance of the surrender of Japan to the Allied forces, thus bringing to a close the biggest war ever fought by man. Our next point of interest is our flag room. Hanging from the ceiling, we can see the flags of all 50 states. On the right side are 13, 48, 49, and 50-star U.S. flags. Along the left wall of the flag room are photos of ships and cruise books produced by their crews. When a Navy ship heads overseas, a small committee is formed to capture photos of the crew at work and at play, and to write stories about the things they've done in defense of freedom. In this corner of the flag room is the POW MIA table. This is a feature of any formal military dining event and in American dining facilities on installations around the U.S. and the world. Each item in the table setting symbolizes the sacrifice of our comrades who have become prisoners of war or are missing in action. The empty chair and upturned cup and goblet indicate our absent comrade is not present and will not be sharing in toast or imbibing. The single candle and solitary rose reflect that each prisoner is alone in their captivity. The salt and lemon slice in the saucer symbolize the tears of the family members and the bitterness of this separation from a loved one. The 2 silver bracelets bear the names of 2 U.S. pilots shot down over North Vietnam and held captive in the notorious Hanoi Hilton for nearly 8 years. So this display represents one of the cost of freedoms we cherish here in our homeland. Across the far end of the flag room are uniformed mannequins. From the left are service dress blue uniforms for a Coast Guard Chief Petty Officer, Hospital Corpsman, or medic. Next is a Navy Petty Officer First Class Aviation Ordnanceman. The dress blue uniform of a Marine Master Sergeant is very colorful and impressive. The 2 evening dress blue uniforms are for a female Senior Chief Petty Officer and a male Lieutenant Commander and are worn to formal evening events. The tropical white uniform is that of a Commander, Naval Aviator, or Pilot. Here we have Captain Bill Murdoch's service dress blue uniform. Finally, we have the service dress white uniform of a Coast Guard warrant officer grade W3. Before we leave the flag room, we look up at a U.S. flag memento of the 9/11/2001 attacks on New York City. We're very proud of our library, which contains more than 1,000 books, pamphlets, and videos on military topics. Museum members may check out these materials. Here also is the famous photo poster of the victory over Japan, VJ Day Kiss, in Times Square, August 14, 1945. Another artifact of interest in the library is the large radio-controlled model of a PBY Catalina patrol plane. PB stands for Patrol Bomber and Y stands for Consolidated Aircraft, the company that built it. The model was built and flown by a Lake Placid Navy veteran. As we enter the main exhibit hall, we can see it contains hundreds of displays to look at. My attention always moves towards the ball caps to our left. Each one bears a ship, submarine, unit, squadron or shore station name or number. We can see on the panels above the hats, ship and unit plaques. In the Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard, it is traditional for a crew member to receive a plaque denoting the person's faithful service and team contribution. Our World War I exhibit was put together for the centennial of the end of that war in November 2018 and features uniforms of 3 veterans of that conflict. Matthew White and Frank Rufus Ryder were sailors on board 2 different troop ships traveling across the Atlantic Ocean to France, while John Paul was one of the Army soldiers being transported. Frank's crackerjack uniform is of a dense but soft merino wool. This dress blue uniform type is still worn today. Matthew's undress white uniform material is cotton cloth, sort of like canvas. John Paul's uniform is wool, as well as his leg wraps. John Paul is holding a 30-40 Craig Jorgensen rifle. This was used for training troops on the way to the battlefields of France and Belgium. We commemorate the start of World War II with this exhibit about the Battle of Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. Our exhibit highlights the plight of USS Arizona, Oklahoma, Ward, and Neosho. We've placed the uniform of Private Caesar Turchiarelli here as a reminder that Schofield Barracks, a large army base just north of Pearl Harbor, was also part of the attack that day. The uniform of AM3 Kelly Meyer, who served in the Port Columbus, Ohio Naval Air Rework Facility, reminds us of the many thousands of women who volunteered in all of the armed forces during World War II. Today's technology has its roots in what we might consider the primitive technology of World War II era. This exhibit portrays the contribution of 2 Navy radiomen, Chief Frank Yanucci and Petty Officer Jack Thomas. 2 telegraph key types are displayed, the standard fist key and the side key, and manual typewriter for transferring letters and numbers onto a sheet of paper. Above us is a nice model of an Army Air Corps P-40 Warhawk. This fighter was mass-produced in World War II and was used in every theater of that war. The Warhawk was also used by the American Volunteer Group in defense of nationalist China beginning in summer of 1941. Below the model airplane is our second heaviest artifact in the museum, the 1942 WLA motorcycle. This donated WLA was produced in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, shipped to England that year and used by the Army from D-Day +2 through France, Belgium, Holland, and into Germany. Other than the leatherwork in the windshield, this WLA Harley is fully original. Next we come to several artifacts that reflect on combat operations in World War II. Eagle's Nest Banner. The banner was taken down from a pole at Adolf Hitler's Eagle's Nest Chateau in the Bavarian Mountains in May 1945. Other artifacts in the case include an Afrika Korps helmet, a German air raid warden, and a firefighter helmet of the period. This next case contains the primary firearms used by the American troops in World War II and the Korean War. From the top down is the model 1903 bolt-action Springfield. Next, the M1 Garand semi-automatic rifle, the M1 carbine, model 1928 Thompson submachine gun, and finally the model 1911 Colt automatic pistol. This case contains 3 Japanese Oriska rifles. 2 are outfitted with anti-aircraft type mechanical sights. These rifles were surrendered after the order from the Emperor. As you can see the file marks on the receiver tops where the chrysanthemum imprint bore the symbol of the Emperor. We are now at the USS Lewis Hancock Memorial. This Fletcher-class destroyer was one of 175 built during World War II. She was in service from 1943 to 1946, and then from 1951 to 1957. Age has caught up to these hardy sailors, and so they have passed the reunion mementos to us to preserve and honor the memory of their service and sacrifice. KMS Prince Eugen. A rather famous World War II German warship was the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen. She participated in the Battle of the Denmark Strait in May 1941, helping to sink the HMS Hood. This is the ship's crest. After the war, the ship became USS Prinz Eugen and was used as a target for 2 atomic bomb tests at Bikini Atoll in 1946. The war in Vietnam posed many geographical problems for the military. The 50-foot aluminum swift boats and 31-foot PBRs patrolled night and day on the rivers and canals. Most Navy casualties in Vietnam came from these brown water operations. We display replica M16 and AK-47 automatic rifles. These were heavily used by the U.S., ARVN, Viet Cong, and North Vietnam regular Army soldiers. On the wall is a U.S. Law rocket launcher. It was a one-shot light anti-tank weapon system. Its rocket could penetrate steel armor on vehicles. Below that, we have a 1965-era night vision scope. Low-light magnification systems allowed U.S. soldiers to see the enemy without being detected at night. Several types of munitions are displayed here, including naval 3-inch and 5-inch shell casings. This exhibit also contains a practice claymore mine, an anti-personnel weapon used to defend a position from massed infantry attack. On board ship, sailors have used several different types of beds over the years. Above us is a canvas hammock used until World War II. Hammocks are only rigged to overhead hooks when in actual use. When a man went on duty, the hammock was taken down, bound up by rope, and stowed in a rack. During World War II, sailors, Marines, and soldiers were bedded down in pipe racks. That is, a steel pipe frame with canvas laced across the rope. Below us is a steel locker bunk, which began appearing in Navy ships in the 1960s, and the design is still in use today. If an enlisted man has good conduct during his career, the rank, rating, and enlistment stripes are gold. If a sailor has a major infraction, these are changed to red until the sailor has 12 consecutive years of good conduct. Let's move into our Naval Aviation exhibit area. As World War II emerged, naval aviation became the decisive element in the war at sea. The 4.5 acres of flight deck on a modern nuclear-powered aircraft carrier has been called the most dangerous piece of real estate on the planet. For decades, crew members have worn differently colored jerseys in order for the work to flow in and around planes, vehicles, weapons, and other equipment. The red jersey on this mannequin shows that this wearer is an ordnance or weapons handler. These folk mount bombs and missiles on the planes. This is a flight suit made of Nomex cloth. These are worn by air crews on not only Navy and Marine aircraft, but also by the Air Force, Army, and Coast Guard. The material is flame resistant and so offers some protection in the event of a fire on the craft and even on the flight deck. This large piece of plexiglass is a vertical plotting board. The sailor with the headphones would be listening to several radar or sonar operators reporting the location, course, and speed of friendly, unknown, and enemy aircraft, submarines, ships, or incoming missiles. The United States Merchant Marine has played a crucial role in the expansion of American trade in peace and in supplying military needs in times of war. An example of U.S. merchant service are these mementos from Captain Austin Cushman. Captain Cushman held master licenses for various cargo and passenger ships, but his crowning achievement was command of the NS Savannah H. Built during the 1950s under President Eisenhower's Atoms for Peace program, Savannah is the only nuclear-powered merchant ship ever built. It was in service from 1962 to 1972 and is preserved in Baltimore, Maryland. The one armed service that most Americans pretty much take for granted is the United States Coast Guard. The Coast Guard has been a major player in every war in our history, including World War II, when it temporarily became part of the U.S. Navy, as well as in Vietnam, Desert Storm, and the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. This service was molded from 3 agencies over time. The Revenue Cutter Service and the Life Saving Service merged in 1915, and the Lighthouse Service, which merged in 1939. Our exhibits here displays an early revenue cutter, the Harriet Lane, as well as a replica of the historic Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. A unique form of navigation was brought to us by retired Captain Floyd Tucker, master of the NOAA research ship Discoverer. He was given this stick chart by an islander in the South Pacific. The bamboo sticks represent the dominant wave patterns in and around different Polynesian islands. These are uniforms worn by Rodney Wester during the Iraq War in 2003, and by Brian Carroll in Afghanistan in 2006. Rodney captured several Iraqi soldiers, and one of their liberated helmets is displayed here. Brian Carroll was a combat engineer whose job was clearing landmines. He provided us with examples of a bouncing Betty and a tow mine. This cabinet exhibits artifacts and mementos from the Navy's Medical Corps, medical doctors, dentists, ophthalmologists, nurses, and hospital corpsmen. If you recall pharmacist mate Matthew White from our World War I exhibit, Matthew attended medical school after the war and became a medical doctor. Each of the armed services has its own corps chaplains. No matter the religion, every chaplain must provide spiritual support to all the people in their assigned military unit. This exhibit highlights the service of 4 Army chaplains traveling from Boston to Britain in February 1943. Fox, Good, Washington, and Poling were each awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. In 1961, they were also awarded the 4 Chaplains Medal, a special medal for heroism. A Navy chaplain is also featured in this exhibit, Chaplain Joe O'Callaghan, a Roman Catholic priest. He is shown in an iconic photo giving last rites to a young, badly injured seaman on the burning flight deck of the carrier USS Franklin. Chaplain O'Callaghan was awarded the Medal of Honor for bravery. The Congressional Medal of Honor is the highest military award for valor in the armed services of the United States. On our Medal of Honor wall, we exhibit the stories of 4 Americans who have been awarded the medal. Major Thomas B. McGuire, Sergeant Darrell S. Cole, Boatswain Mate First Class James E. Williams, Commander George L. Street. This is a good time for us to pause and reflect on American military casualties during armed conflicts in the 20th and 21st centuries. We're now stepping through our quick-acting, watertight door from the frigate USS Aubrey Fitch back into our main foyer. This hallway contains models of Navy battleship and aircraft carriers. One of our last 2 stops will be the ship's store and then outside to our cast iron cannon. Our store contains retail merchandise we sell to visitors. On hand we have postcards, lapel pins, stick flags, plaques, ball caps, and a few other odds and ends. We also sell memorial bricks for installation in our memory walk in front of the building. Now let's go outside and around to the north side of the building. As we move along, we'll pass several small craft anchors. This one by the sign and the one at the base of our flagpole are known as build anchors. The one by the side door is a Navy stockless anchor. Build anchors are useful in rocky bottom areas as well as in sand and mud. The Navy stockless anchor is usually a lot heavier than a build anchor and is more easily housed or stored in the bow of a ship. On an aircraft carrier, each anchor weighs about 30 tons, with each link of the chain weighing as much as 350 pounds. We are now alongside our oldest artifact, a British Admiralty cannon. It weighs in at about 3,200 pounds, or 1,450 kilograms. This unit was cast in England back in the year 1640. It was eventually installed in a fort on Carlisle Bay on the island of Barbados in the Caribbean. This cannon was actually used by the British in 1662 to repel a Dutch invasion against the island. I hope you've enjoyed your tour of the museum as much as I've enjoyed showing you around. If you get a chance to come to Sebring, Florida, I hope you're able to take the time to come and visit us. I know you will enjoy your time with us. After all, this is the Military Sea Service Museum, where history comes alive.